It was one of those days when the rain seemed to have a personal vendetta against the city. Not the gentle, romantic drizzle that makes you want to curl up with a book, but the relentless downpour that soaks through every layer of clothing within seconds. I stood by the window of my apartment, watching droplets race down the glass, creating miniature rivers that merged and separated in unpredictable patterns. There was something mesmerizing about it, something that made me forget about the stack of unfinished work on my desk and the unanswered messages on my phone. My apartment wasn't much, a modest one-bedroom on the third floor of an old building with questionable plumbing and neighbors who seemed allergic to silence. But on days like this, it felt like a sanctuary, a small pocket of warmth and dryness in a world determined to drench everything in sight. I had just made myself a cup of tea, the steam rising in lazy curls, when I heard the familiar sound of keys jingling outside my door. That would be Noah, my roommate, my friend, well, that's where things got complicated. We'd known each other since college, shared this apartment for almost 2 years now, and somewhere along the way, the line between friendship and something more had started to blur, at least for me. I tried not to think about it too much, about the way my heart did a little somersault whenever he laughed, or how I found myself making excuses to be in the same room as him. It was ridiculous, really. I was 28 years old, not some lovesick teenager. The door swung open, and there he was, Noah in all his rain-soaked glory. His dark hair was plastered to his forehead, water dripping from the ends and trailing down his face. His white t-shirt clung to his chest, almost transparent now, and his jeans looked like they weighed twice as much as they should. But despite his bedraggled appearance, he was grinning, that crooked smile that always made my stomach flip. "Looks like you got caught in it," I said, stating the obvious because apparently, that's what my brain defaulted to whenever Noah short-circuited my ability to form intelligent sentences. "What gave it away?" He laughed, running a hand through his wet hair, sending droplets flying. "The impromptu shower I'm taking in our entryway, or the fact that I resemble a drowned rat?" I couldn't help but smile. A very handsome drowned rat, if that helps. The words were out before I could stop them, and I felt heat rise to my cheeks. But Noah just laughed again, seemingly unfazed by the compliment. That was the thing about Noah. He was so comfortable in his own skin, so unabashedly himself, that nothing ever seemed to throw him off balance. It was one of the many things I admired about him. "I was on my way back from the gym when the sky decided to open up," he explained, toeing off his sodden sneakers. "I swear it went from sunny to biblical flood in about 3 seconds flat. So much for the weather apps, slight chance of showers prediction. Technology has betrayed us once again," I said solemnly, handing him the towel I'd grabbed from the bathroom. Our fingers brushed during the exchange, a brief, innocent touch that shouldn't have sent a jolt of electricity up my arm, but it did. Noah ran the towel over his face and hair, making it stick up in all directions. It gave him a boyish, disheveled look that was unfairly appealing. "Any chance I could use the drying rack for these?" he asked, plucking at his wet clothes. "Everything I'm wearing is absolutely drenched." "Of course," I nodded, trying very hard not to think about the implications of Noah removing said clothes. "It's in the laundry closet. I'll grab it for you." I busied myself retrieving the drying rack, a flimsy contraption that had seen better days but still managed to serve its purpose. When I returned to the living room, Noah was standing there in just his boxer briefs, his wet clothes bundled in his arms. I nearly tripped over my own feet at the sight of him, all lean muscle and smooth skin, with a trail of dark hair leading down from his navel that disappeared beneath the waistband of his underwear. "Sorry," he said, mistaking my momentary paralysis for discomfort. "I was dripping all over the floor. I can put something on if—" "No, it's fine," I interrupted, my voice coming out slightly higher than normal. "We're roommates. It's not like I haven't seen you in your underwear before." Which was true, but somehow this felt different. More charged, somehow. I unfolded the drying rack with perhaps more concentration than the task required, acutely aware of Noah's presence just a few feet away. "So, did the rain ruin any grand plans for the day?" I asked, desperate for something, anything, to fill the silence. Noah shrugged, a casual lift of his shoulders that drew my attention to the defined muscles of his chest. "Not really. I was just going to run some errands, maybe catch a movie. Nothing that can't wait until the weather decides to cooperate." He stepped closer, holding out his wet t-shirt. Mind if I hang these up? Go ahead, I said, stepping back to give him space. But the apartment was small, and the laundry closet was even smaller, which meant we were still standing closer than strictly necessary. I could smell the clean scent of his skin beneath the petrichor of the rain, could feel the warmth radiating from his body despite his recent drenching. Noah began hanging his clothes on the rack, first his t-shirt, then his jeans, spreading them out to dry more efficiently. I should have walked away, should have gone back to my tea and my window watching, but instead, I found myself helping him, taking one end of his jeans while he held the other, our hands working in tandem to arrange the fabric just so. Thanks, he said, his voice softer now, almost intimate in the small space. Our eyes met, and for a moment, just a moment, I thought I saw something in his gaze, a flicker of the same longing I'd been trying to suppress for months. But then he blinked, and it was gone, replaced by his usual easy smile. Well, looks like we're stuck inside for the day, he observed, glancing toward the window where the rain continued its relentless assault. Any suggestions for how to pass the time? There were several suggestions that immediately sprang to mind, none of which were appropriate to voice aloud. We could watch a movie. I offered instead the safe, platonic option. Or there's that board game we never finished from last week. Noah nodded thoughtfully, then suddenly reached out and caught my wrist, his fingers warm against my skin. Or, he said, a mischievous glint in his eyes, we could do this. And with a playful tug, he pulled me down onto the couch beside him, both of us landing in an ungraceful heap of limbs and surprised laughter. I found myself pressed against his side, acutely aware of the contrast between my fully clothed state and his near-nakedness. "Noah," I protested, but there was no real objection in my voice, just breathless amusement. "What are you doing?" "Improvising." He grinned, not making any move to increase the space between us. "It's a rainy day? We're supposed to be lazy and comfortable. Is that the rule?" I asked, trying to ignore the way my heart was racing at his proximity. "Absolutely." He nodded with mock seriousness. "It's in the official rainy day handbook. Page 42, paragraph 3. When the heavens open, thou shalt lounge." I couldn't help but laugh. This was so typically Noah, turning a mundane situation into something fun, finding joy in the simplest moments. It was one of the reasons I'd fallen for him, this ability to make everyday life feel special. Well, if it's an official rule, I conceded, allowing myself to relax against him. Who am I to argue? For a while, we just sat there, listening to the rain patter against the windows, the occasional rumble of thunder in the distance. It was comfortable, this shared silence, neither of us feeling the need to fill it with unnecessary words. Noah's arm had somehow found its way around my shoulders, his fingers absently tracing patterns on my upper arm. It felt natural, as if we'd been sitting like this for years instead of minutes. "Can I tell you something?" Noah asked eventually, his voice breaking the quiet. I turned my head to look at him, suddenly nervous about what might come next. "Of course." He hesitated, a rare moment of uncertainty from someone who usually approached life with unwavering confidence. "I didn't actually get caught in the rain by accident today." I frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he continued, his eyes fixed on some point across the room. "I saw the forecast. I knew it was going to pour. I could have easily waited it out at the gym, or taken a cab home." "Then why didn't you?" I asked, though a part of me already suspected the answer, a possibility that made my pulse quicken. Noah finally looked at me, his expression more serious than I'd seen it in a long time. "Because I wanted an excuse to be here, like this, with you. I've been trying to find the courage to tell you something for weeks now, and somehow, I thought maybe the rain would help." "Tell me what?" I whispered, hardly daring to breathe. He shifted slightly, turning to face me more fully on the couch. "That I'm in love with you. That I have been for a while now. That every morning I wake up and think about how lucky I am to see your face, even if it's just across the breakfast table. That every night I go to bed wishing you were there beside me." The words hung in the air between us, momentous and fragile all at once. I stared at him, unable to believe what I was hearing, unable to process that the feelings I'd been harboring in secret were actually reciprocated. "Say something," Noah urged, a note of vulnerability creeping into his voice. "Even if it's not what I want to hear, just say something." Instead of speaking, I leaned forward and pressed my lips to his. It was a gentle kiss, tentative at first, as if I was afraid he might disappear if I pressed too hard. But then his hand came up to cup my cheek, and the kiss deepened, became something more urgent, more real. I could taste the rain on his lips, could feel the slight tremble in his fingers as they traced the line of my jaw. When we finally pulled apart, both slightly breathless, I rested my forehead against his. "I love you too," I said, the words feeling both monumental and completely inadequate to express the depth of emotion swirling inside me. I've been trying to convince myself that I didn't, that it was just a crush that would eventually fade, but it's not. It's real, and it's terrifying, and it's the best thing I've ever felt. Noah's smile was radiant, transforming his entire face. "Why terrifying?" "Because you're my best friend," I explained, voicing fears that had kept me silent for so long. "Because if this goes wrong, I don't just lose a boyfriend, I lose you entirely. And I don't know if I could bear that." He nodded, understanding in his eyes. "I've thought about that too. A lot, actually. But then I realized something. We're already halfway there, aren't we? We live together, we know each other's habits and quirks, we've seen each other at our best and worst. The only thing missing was this." He gestured between us, to our still intertwined bodies. "The honesty about how we feel. The permission to act on it." He was right, of course. In many ways, we'd been in a relationship without the label, without the physical intimacy. We'd built a foundation of trust and mutual respect that many couples would envy. Perhaps that was why it felt so natural now, sitting here with him, my hand in his, our hearts finally in alignment. "So what happens now?" I asked, both thrilled and slightly overwhelmed by this sudden shift in our dynamic. Noah's thumb traced circles on the back of my hand, a soothing, grounding gesture. "Now we take it one day at a time. We don't have to rush anything. We already have the most important parts figured out. We know we work well together. We know we care about each other. The rest we can discover as we go." The rain continued to fall outside, creating a cozy cocoon around our little moment of revelation. Noah's clothes hung forgotten on the drying rack, dripping occasionally onto the floor, but neither of us moved to adjust them. There were more important things happening, a new chapter beginning right here on this worn couch, with the sound of raindrops as our soundtrack. "I have to admit," I said, a smile tugging at my lips, "getting soaked in the rain just to create a scenario where you'd have to take off your clothes is quite the elaborate seduction technique." Noah laughed, the sound warm and rich. "Hey, it worked, didn't it? Though I have to say, I didn't plan quite this far ahead. I was just hoping for a chance to talk to you. Maybe gauge if you might feel the same way. The rest of this," he gestured between us, "is a very welcome bonus." I leaned in to kiss him again, simply because I could now, because the barrier of uncertainty had been broken down, replaced by a newfound freedom to express the affection I'd been holding back for so long. His lips were soft against mine, his hand warm where it rested on my waist, and I marveled at how something could feel so new and yet so familiar all at once. When we separated, Noah's expression was thoughtful. "You know, I've imagined this moment so many times, in so many different ways, but somehow the reality is even better than anything I could have dreamed up. Even with you sitting here in your underwear, clothes dripping on our floor," I teased. "Especially with that," he grinned. "It adds a certain dramatic flair, don't you think? Plus, it saved us from the awkward should we or shouldn't we take our clothes off phase. I'm already halfway there." I laughed, shaking my head at his incorrigible humor. "Always looking on the bright side. One of my many charming qualities," he agreed with a wink. Then, more seriously, "But really, are you okay with this? With us? I know it's a big change, and if you need time to process or think things through." I silenced him with another kiss, brief but definitive. "I've had months to think about this, Noah. I'm sure. I'm nervous, yes, because this matters so much to me. But I've never been more certain about anything." Relief washed over his features, followed by a joy so pure it made my chest ache. "Good," he said simply. "That's really good." We spent the rest of the afternoon talking about how long we'd each been harboring feelings for the other, about the moments when we'd almost confessed, about our fears and hopes for this new relationship. The rain continued its steady rhythm outside, but inside, something had shifted, the atmosphere charged with possibility and newfound honesty. As evening approached, Noah's clothes had dried enough for him to put them back on, though he did so with obvious reluctance, and more than a few playful comments about preferring to stay as he was. We ordered takeout, neither of us willing to venture out into the still pouring rain, and ate it sitting close together on the couch, our knees touching, exchanging glances that held new meaning, new promise. Later, as we stood side by side brushing our teeth before bed, I caught Noah's eye in the bathroom mirror. There was a moment of unspoken question. Where would we sleep tonight? In our separate rooms as usual, or? Noah finished first, rinsing his mouth and setting his toothbrush back in the holder. No pressure, he said softly, reading my thoughts. We can take this as slow as you want. I nodded, grateful for his understanding. Maybe just stay with me tonight? Just to sleep, to be close. His smile was tender, full of affection. I'd like that. And so we ended the day curled together in my bed, Noah's arm around my waist, his breath warm against the back of my neck. Outside, the rain had finally begun to ease, the storm moving on to drench some other part of the city. But its purpose had been served. It had brought us together, had created the perfect conditions for truth to finally emerge. Thank you for getting caught in the rain today, I murmured, already half drifting towards sleep. I felt rather than saw Noah's smile against my shoulder. Best drenching I've ever had, he replied, his voice equally soft. Worth every soggy step. And as I finally surrendered to sleep, wrapped in the warmth of Noah's embrace, I couldn't help but think that sometimes the most perfect moments come from the most imperfect circumstances. A rainy day, wet clothes on a drying rack, and the courage to finally speak the truth. These simple elements had combined to create something beautiful, something that felt like the beginning of everything. In the morning, we would wake to sunshine streaming through the windows, the world washed clean by yesterday's downpour. But for now, in this quiet moment of connection, the rain's gentle aftermath was all we needed, a reminder that sometimes the storms in our lives lead us exactly where we're meant to be. Total _char_count, 18,762.